correct, yes. I have strong Wi-Fi around here, so I don't expect any disturbances. So, as usual, I'm going to wait till a few people come in. It's a bit of a late live stream today because I mean, what the heck just happened? This is the proof, believers, that there are darkness resisting these live streams, because what you just saw, that interruption, the YouTube app suddenly crashed. And when I was about to shut it down, it asked the stream was interrupted. We want to continue. I decided to click continue, and I'm here. So there was an attempt to shut down the stream right away, and I didn't even have anyone watching already. So for those who are here, let me know in the live chat you're here, please. Thank you very much. I'll wait till more come in. Let me know in the live chat when you're here. And let me know if you... I'm using video now because I'm on my laptop. Not laptop, my tablet. And on my tablet, I have a YouTube app. And the YouTube app on the tablet is quite smooth, so it works well. Diamond Land, the boss, thank you for being here. Greetings to everyone from Australia that's here. Hey, Marcus Art, thank you for being here. Christopher, thank you for being here. Well, nothing was going to interrupt this stream anyway, in Christ's mighty name, so... Okay. What I'm going to talk about in this live stream, it's a very simple subject. It's similar to the subject of the previous live stream, which is called See Beyond the Silence, or the Look Beyond the Silence. In this live stream, I want to talk about seeing and managing root conflicts. Now, what is a root conflict? A root conflict is the real conflict that goes on. Okay? So, understand the following. Worldlings cannot be open and transparent 24/7. If they would do that, then they wouldn't be able to get along, and you would have violent chaos all the time. A bunch of people that don't want to face life, they don't want to face any challenge, they just want to flee all the time. And if they're very firm and clear that you only want to flee, then nothing can be done, nothing can be accomplished. They need to get along in order to have stability. They all want stability, but none of them want to lay down the costs. And if they do lay down the costs, they often don't want to consider whether the costs are just or not. They just want to be left alone. Just want to be left alone, yet expect life to work out. Those things still go hand in hand. Either you participate in life and things work out, or you refuse to participate in life and you perish. But worldlings want to refuse participation in life, yet want things to work out. They want to be built out from the perishing that comes as a result of their attitude. If you just want to be left alone, just want to avoid life, just want to flee, then you'll perish. But you don't want to perish, you want to flee and be built out. If they're open about this 24/7, none of the children will want to live with them anymore. They won't be able to form companies, they won't be able to form bonds, they won't be able to have families, they won't be able to have sexual relationships, they won't be able to do anything. So worldlings cannot be honest, not transparent, because it wouldn't work for them. So worldlings are good at distraction. Okay, so the root conflict of all is the fact that worldlings want to flee, yet expect life to work out for them. And that's the thing that cannot work. Anyone will seriously sit down and examine the situation and realize, okay, what these people want doesn't end up. They have a pathological approach to life. Now, if they would openly say, we don't want solutions, we don't want to deal with anything, but we do expect life to work out, we do expect good things to happen to us on our terms, the way we want it, and when we are neglectful, well, we have our reasons, but we do expect everything to keep on working for us. If they would just say it, just like that, you would think, what? So if you walk into a kitchen, you expect the food to just magically appear, you don't want to work with ingredients, you don't want to cook, you don't want to make any effort. Or if you get food, you don't want to open your mouth, chew on it and swallow it. You don't want to do the natural effort for the food to enter your stomach. If you would examine the attitude of worldlings, it's a black and white, exclusive way of thinking. exclusive in the sense that everything doesn't match their expectations, they discard, which is also unrealistic because your expectations are based on how you were shaped by the community, so they don't come from yourself. And if you were shaped by the community, was the community correct? So you still need to self-reflect. But worldlings don't want to self-reflect, they don't want to do any natural effort, but they do expect things to have to work. And when they do natural effort, they just want to get what they want. The only thing they want is that little object or that activity they're interested in. All the other things around it, they forget about it, they don't want to discard it. This narcissistic discarding attitude of worldlings is pathological. They can never get ahead with this. The only way the world can operate is if worldlings fake wanting solutions. They don't really want solutions, but they have to fake as if they want solutions. In order to fake it, they expect to make it, namely that they have stability. And for thousands of years, worldlings, generation on generation, have managed to get away with this narcissistic attitude of avoiding life. They expect life to work out. How did they get away with it? By dumping the energetic pollution on victims. So the world can only continue because it has victims to leech upon. Without the victims to leech upon, the world cannot work. But this victimization of the victims, they need to have some kind of excuse to justify it, because if they can't justify it and everyone can see that it's plain just dumping and leeching, it's going to make them very uncomfortable, and this discomfort will hinder stability. So for worldlings to have stability, because worldlings often are not even interested in happiness nor in their own well-being, just want to have stability. For them to have stability, they have to get along, and to get along, they need to agree with one another. But because all of them want to flee life, the only thing they can agree on is that they want to be left alone. But how do you have millions of people all want to be left alone? If they all just discard their life, they'll end up being annoyed and irritate one another. They can end up literally killing and devouring one another. So they all agree to flee together, and those that don't flee on their terms, they attack. That's what society is. Okay? So, worldlings use the word honesty when they want to dump. When they're frustrated and just lash out, that is what they call honesty. No, it's just violence, but they call that honesty. Because of real honesty, which is self-reflecting and reflect on situation and participate in solutions, that's something worldlings don't want. So, when it comes to worldlings, the conflict is that they are self-occupied. That's the thing that they don't want to see. And if they have to admit it, they will immediately come with some excuse. Yeah, they will say, I'm selfish because the world is very cruel, so I have to be selfish in order to survive. Or they will say things as, well, at least I'm not as bad as they are. So they will always come with some excuse for it. Now, why are they self-occupied? Because we're born in sin, we're born in fallen state. Is that their fault? No. But they need to admit this fallen state of ours is not correct. It's been for pollution, so we need to be saved. Oh, who's the savior? Christ is. So submit to Christ, be redeemed, and you live in peace, life, and abundance. But to do that, they have to fulfill this clinging onto control, which is what their seeking of relief is all about. They don't want to do that. So what are they left with? They're left with ruin. But they don't want to deal with the ruin, so they want to dump. So that is what the world is. They want it both ways. They want to have their cake and eat it too. Everyone that enables evil want their cake and eat it too. Because everyone that persists in doing evil, they will not tolerate evil being done to them or those they consider important to them. Yet they don't want to do it to others. So it's one-way street. All the good has come to them, but they're not obliged to participate in the good, nor to be good to themselves. And when they do something good from time to time, that is going to be their ticket to disregard everything else. That's why you have those pagan rich using charity organizations just to blackmail people into leaving them alone. They want to exploit the community all the rest of the year, but at Christmas Day or at some seasons, they're quite generous. And because they're quite generous on those occasions, they use that as blackmail against the people for all the other days in the year that they exploit the people. So, society is a narcissistic construct. I already explained that to you. So, we know what the conflict is that they are self-occupied. So, we understand that. So, now that we know this, we know that all conflicts that go on in the world have this base of being self-occupied. Someone wants their own relief above all. And they put their own relief above everything else. That's the root of it. So those are the root conflicts that go on. And those root conflicts are things people seldom address, because once they address them, then they need to admit their own fallen mind. And nobody wants to go there. So when there are root conflicts that go on, worldlings tend to create drama or artificial conflicts in order to focus on. So you have root conflicts and artificial conflicts. Root conflicts are the conflicts that come forth from the fallen mind, also known as the works of the flesh. Those are the root conflicts. You can read about the works of the flesh in the New Testament, first the fruits of the Spirit. So you have a root conflict, and they cover it with artificial conflict. And artificial conflict has two dimensions, well, actually two levels. The lower level of artificial conflict is on the public agenda, and the more higher form of artificial conflict is politics. So write this down, make notes of it, and even repeat it in the live chat. You have root conflicts, which are the works of the flesh or the results of the fallen mind. So root conflicts are results of the fallen mind. Because worldlings don't want to face that about themselves, they create artificial conflict. And artificial conflicts in two layers. You have public artificial conflicts, and you have political artificial conflicts. Or political artificial conflict is what politics is all about. So, do you understand that? Let me know in the live chat. And repeat it in small notes in the live chat so I know that you understand what I've just said. I'll wait. Well done. I'll be back. Hold on. Luister. Hij doet een luister. Okay, so let me read. Yeah, someone says here, protocol comes out because people walk in the flesh, or that's the result of operating fallen mind. Yes, that's correct. Artificial conflicts it's when they blame scapegoats for the root conflicts. That's true. Yes, artificial conflicts are made up to cover the root. That's true. So, and from the artificial conflicts, again, you have the lower level, which is just in the public, and the higher level, which is politics. So politics is all about maintaining artificial conflict. So write this down. Politics is all about maintaining artificial conflicts. Okay? That is why some of those political conflicts go on in the world, or that has played out human history. When you examine the conflict very well, you would think, what is this about? For example, till this day, when you go to South America, you can see there is a border dispute between the Republic of Uruguay and the Republic of Brazil. It is this tiny plot of land, well, actually, it's not really that tiny, but compared to the whole continent, it's quite tiny. You get this plot of land in a forest, a rainforest to be precise, that the administration of Uruguay and the administration of Brazil are fighting about. Who does it belong to? Till this day on Google Maps, they credit it to Brazil, but Uruguay said it belongs to us. Where did this conflict come from? During the colonial era, there used to be conflict between the Spanish and Portuguese settlers. And it was this province, the colony of Sacramento, which was a Portuguese colony that went to Spain, as the province of Montevideo, which later became the Republic of Uruguay. But briefly after independence of the Viceroyalty of Rio de la Plata, the Empire of Brazil, because the Crown Prince of Portugal was crowned to Emperor of Brazil, the Empire of Brazil occupied the province of Montevideo, and the province of Montevideo later separated as the Republic of Uruguay. And during the separation, there was this plot of land that they couldn't decide how the border had to go between Empire of Brazil and the Republic of Uruguay. Now that both countries are republics, and the colonial era is a bit in the past, they're still fighting out this colonial conflict of where does the border need to go. And you may ask yourself, why does this conflict even exist? Why does it matter who this force belongs? Well, what matters is the well-being of the people in Uruguay and Brazil, right? So this conflict between Uruguay and Brazil is an artificial conflict. It's a conflict that does not matter. Who cares if it's Uruguay that claims that a forest or whether it's Brazil? Brazil contains one of the biggest rainforest regions on the earth as a country. Okay, so Brazil has enough forest around. So why is Brazil fighting about this tiny piece of forest in the south? Is there economic activity happening over there? Is there any gold over there, whatever? No, there is nothing economically nor socially relevant for the Brazilian people in that forest. So why are they fighting about that piece of forest? And Uruguay, on the other hand, most of their economic activity happens in the south, in Montevideo and those ports. So why are they fighting about this plot of land in the north, where there are not even many people living there? So that conflict I've just spoken about between Brazil and Uruguay is a nonsensical argument that doesn't benefit anyone. Whether Uruguay wins or whether Brazil wins, no, what's the purpose of it? So if Brazil would declare war on Uruguay because that piece of forest, even the soldiers in the Brazilian military would say, "O quê? Por quê?" They would spring and think, what is this? For a stupid plot of land that doesn't even... Hey, aren't we Brazil? Don't we have the rainforest in the Amazon? Don't we have a lot of plots of land that aren't even used? Why are we fighting with this tiny piece of forest? They would turn on their own government and their own generals thinking, what is this? Because that conflict is way too obvious, it's artificial. It's way too obvious that it doesn't add up. So you have some politics, because remember, politics is all about maintaining artificial conflicts. You have some of those artificial conflicts that are too obvious, and people think, I don't want to be involved with this, leave me alone, don't talk to me about it, which is true. But such conflicts are conflicts that are often in the background. They are more symbolic, okay? Then you have other political dramas that are a bit more ongoing, due to the economic interests are involved. For example, if you have Pakistan and India, there is this border conflict. I said the Kashmir region, but this is a region that Pakistan claims for itself and India also. Why? Because during the colonial era, when Britain governed South Asia, it was one administration of the British Empire. When independence came, you had the more Islamic people in the West later declaring themselves independent as Pakistan, and India also was independent already, so now they had to decide which part of this former colonial district belongs to Pakistan, which belongs to India, and never got out. And here's the thing, there is economic activity happening over there. So if Pakistan would manage it, then Pakistan would benefit from economic activity. If India belonged to India, then India would have a leverage in that area. And that area also borders China. So, and that area where that it borders, in that neighborhood, near there you also have an Islamic community of China. So if it belongs to Pakistan, now the Muslims have a leverage economically. If it belongs to India, then the Hindus have a leverage. So there's a religious and economic conflict here about who owns that plot of this territory there in the west of the Himalaya. So those artificial conflicts are more obvious because there is some type of leverage involved. And people from both Pakistan and India who both want to benefit from this leverage, they have an investment in it. Okay? So in politics, I would say politics is all about artificial conflict. That's what it's all about. Some artificial conflicts are way too ridiculous, so people just put them in the background as something symbolic. Others are more hot and so quote unquote relevant because there are some present-day interests involved. Okay, but do you understand this about politics? Let me know in the live chat. I want to know that you, and repeat it in small notes in the live chat so that I know that you understand it. Let me know. I'll wait.
Oh shit! Sorry, steal my ball.
I'll wait. Do you understand about politics being all about artificial conflicts? Let me know in the live chat. I'll wait for 1.5 more minutes before I continue.
Oh shit. Okay, I will follow all the way right now. Shit.
Okay. I didn't get any answer, but you know what? I'm gonna continue anyway. If you get later on, you can let me know in the live chat also. So we know that the high, you say the quote unquote higher level of artificial conflicts, that's politics, but the lower level of artificial conflicts are the everyday dramas that people invest in. If you just rejoined, you can watch the live stream from now on, and later for the first part you can rewatch it. So that's not a problem. So yeah, someone said politicians create conflict for business interests. Correct. And in those business interests, you have groups in the community that benefit from it. So that's what it comes down to. But when it comes down to the lower rank of artificial conflict, those are everyday stuff. For example, you have people need to have an income in order to pay rent or in order to pay for daily expenses. So how do they get an income? By providing labor, or they have assets in some business and they get paid. Okay, so people have their daily routine and daily activities that they need to do. So they need to get along, but they operate in a fallen mind. So there's this greed to get benefits without having to contribute constructively. I'm not talking about working your behind off like a slave just to survive. That's not correct. I'm talking about constructively contribute to the community. In order to be constructive in the community, you need to self-reflect and be transparent. That also means being vulnerable, and worldlings don't want that. So that's the root conflict right from the start. They don't want to be vulnerable because that means accepting they don't have control. That means stop controlling other people and stop controlling outcomes. Something they can't do anyway. So you have this denial in worldlings, which is a root conflict. In order to hide this, they now decide to be angry at someone else. So it can be that you have, let's say you have Polish migrants living, let's say, in Britain, for example. And those Polish migrants come there, they don't speak English properly, and they end up doing work on farms or work in sewers, so all types of factory work that the common Englishman or common British individual doesn't want to do because they think they're too good for such jobs. So you have those Polish workers, who are also whites, come here doing all that work. They're often exploited, they're paid less, but hey, everyone benefits from exploiting those Polish migrants. Okay, so let's say that's the situation. Why are those Polish migrants needed to begin with? Because a portion of the British population is proud. They don't want to work in the sewers, they don't want to work on land, they don't want to work in factories because they think they're good of themselves. So there's pride there. But here's the thing, if it's your country, and you so-called love your country, then why don't you show the love your country by doing the labor for your country? So there's a contradiction over there. And this contradiction is quite embarrassing. So now that you have Polish migrants coming over all the time, they do the work most of the British people don't want to do. So now the conflict is hidden. But eventually, because there's so many Polish migrants coming there and being exploited, you will have criminals that will take advantage of it. Now you have human trafficking happening in Britain. And with human trafficking, it will also be drug trafficking, it will also be prostitution. So now pollution occurs in Britain, in the communities in Britain. But then when the pollution happens in the form of prostitution, so let's say you have a lot of Polish migrants that end up in prostitution, or you have human trafficking that goes on. Let's say also a lot of drug use. Let's say all of this happens. Now the public is upset. Hey, there's a lot of drug dealing going on, a lot of prostitution. And a lot of Polish migrants are involved in it. Kick those people out so that our country is safe again. But then, people need to ask the question, why are there so many Polish migrants here to begin with? What pulls them to Britain? Oh, it's labor. Okay, but the work they're doing, why can't we have British people doing it? Oh, we can have British people doing it. Okay, but why aren't British people doing it? Oh, they just don't want to. But if that work's not done, then the community would collapse because there are people needed to do all that work, or else our daily lives will not be as smooth and convenient. So there's a conflict here they didn't want to fix. So now they get so obsessed with attacking the criminals involved in the drug trade and prostitution that goes on concerning the migrants in Britain. And now you have those extreme right-wing populists who goes against migration completely, which is one of the reasons why they wanted Brexit to begin with. Now, when you look at this situation here, you had this root conflict. That's the pride in the British population. There's certain jobs they want to do. They just want things to work out, and they don't want to hear anything about things being required of them. They just want to go to the job from 9 to 5, and that's it. They want to be left alone. Because of this, there's a real deficit in the economy. And because of this, eventually, daily life will be interrupted because things will work smoothly. So in order to fill this gap that now exists because of this arrogant attitude of the public, now you have migrants. And the migrants are exploited, which is a crime. Okay? And when eventually there will be people that will go way too far with exploitation. Those are criminals. Now those criminals are polluting the rest of the British community. So if you get so upset with the criminals and you want the police to be hard on the criminals, ask yourself, those criminals could only succeed as criminals because there was an exploitation of migrants that went on. And why is it exploitation of migrants? Oh, because we are too proud to actually take care of our own country. We want to be proud of our own country, but we don't actually want to take care of our own country. Oh, so what goes on with those criminals having an advantage to exploit those migrants is really a result of the arrogance of the public. So of course the criminals are responsible for their participation in the wrong that goes on, but they could only get so far by the public enabling them with their arrogance. Oh, but they don't want to hear this. They don't deal with the root conflict. Focus on the artificial conflict that led to real problems in daily life. Artificial conflicts will bring forth real danger in daily life. The conflicts are artificial, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't work out in the real consequences. So now you have this whole movement in Britain that is anti-migrant. They blame the migrants for all the crime and everything happens in Britain, forgetting that it's Englishmen, Scottishmen, Welshmen, or Northern Irishmen that are exploiting many of those migrants. Of course, you have criminal migrants who just want to loot, but it's people from Britain itself that collaborate with them. They forget about that. Then, when the conflicts in Britain become so devastating, so the artificial conflicts escalated, in so many issues, knife crime, and a lot of that. Now they need someone to blame. So they come with another artificial conflict, but this artificial conflict is on the political level. So now you have this political movement called we need to be free from the European Union. The European Union is ruining our lives. We can be far better off about EU. We can have our better. We can be like in during the time of the empire again. Because when we're out of the EU, we can say goodbye to all those migrants that are polluting our country. So that's how the Brexit movement came up. And they didn't literally say it like I just said, but eventually admitted it was about migration. It was about them not wanting non-white folks roaming around in Britain freely. That is what it came down to. And now, after you had this referendum in 2016, when it became obvious that this whole Brexit idea is going to be very costly and it's going to cause a lot of real trouble, there are not going to be many benefits to be out. Now we're part of the biggest economic zone in the world. We are co-deciders in this number one economic zone in the world. If we're out of it, we're just an island nation that has to rely on this big market anyway. And if we destroy this big market, then it won't benefit us because then we economically will go down. So this whole Brexit fantasy, just was all it was, never had any real merit to it. But when this became obvious, the people already invested in this. Why? Because the root conflict, which is their own pride, they don't want to face it. So you had low-level artificial conflicts that led to issues concerning migration, and this led to a political movement, which is another artificial conflict of saying it's all the EU's fault, we need to get out, we need to be sovereign again. And now, that thing is now leading to other artificial conflicts also now that they're finally completely out of the EU, also outside of the single market, since the 1st of January of this year. So, I've used the example of Britain to explain how this plays out. How artificial conflicts lead to real life danger. And the reason artificial conflicts exist is because worldlings don't want to deal with the fact they are in a fallen state. Because the moment they deal with it, they realize they need Christ. So, before I continue, do you understand what I've explained till now? Let me know in the live chat. I know I'm giving a lot of information, that's why I stop from time to time to ask you, do you understand it? Let me know in the live chat. So, artificial conflicts you have everywhere in the world. Without this, society wouldn't exist. So understand the following. All conflicts that play out in daily life, whether it's on the political level, whether it's in the public level, they have one thing in common. It's all a form of deflection. Worldlings want to face that they are in a fallen state, both as individuals and as a group. Because once they admit this, they realize we need the Heavenly Father to govern us. We can't govern ourselves. Because our way is based on avoidance, and that's not going to work. So, because they don't want to come to the conclusion that they need to be led by the Heavenly Father, that means giving up all that clinging of theirs. They don't want to do this. Now they need to justify the refusal for solutions. And they don't going to say we just want solutions. They're going to say, oh, there's this issue we need to fight. And because we have to fight this issue, we can't work with solutions. They want an excuse for not to have to comply with solutions. That's what it is. And that is what this whole war on terror, this whole campaign called the War of Terror, initiated by the United States, that's what it's all about. So that is why, for example, in this war on terror, first of all, a war is after an object or a group of people. A war is not after something, some idea. Because if you have a war against Tunisia, for example, and you conquer Tunisia, then you've accomplished your goal. But if you have a war against warm weather, for example, where does this not end? You're also going to have warm weather here or there. If you have a war on warm weather, people say this is nonsense. How are we going to shut down warm weather? Even if we were able to, we would destroy the whole ecosystem of the earth and we will all die. So if someone would say there's a war on warm weather, you would say, huh? You're going to have a war against warm weather? What type of warm comes from warm weather? Or if an area is quite dry, then we can place irrigation of there from rivers and deal with it. Why would we fight warm weather? People say this is nonsensical. While the war on terror is just like a war on warm weather. It's nonsensical conflict that cannot be won. Because what is terror? Terror is simply imputing fear into people so they don't question you. That's what terror is. And that's what the whole world is doing. So if the whole world is using terror, how can it be a war on terror if the whole world operates in this thing called terror? I already explained MK Ultra in another live stream of mine or in other videos. And you can please watch those after this live stream, then you get the better understanding of it. So, if the world operates in imputing fear on its members so that they don't question things, that's terror. How you get rid of terror? By facing reality. But you're not going to have a war on that defective behavior. You look for a way out of that defective behavior. The same thing is you're not going to enact a war on drinking. A war against alcohol. You can have a war against alcoholics in the sense you're going to exterminate alcoholics, okay, just because you're not the dumbest one, but the war against alcoholism is a behavior to cope. How are we going to have a war against that? So you get what I'm saying? So this war on terror is only there to cover up the fact that there are things that cannot be justified. Someone said in Genesis, humans' denial of and non-compliance with justice leads to solutions created from a place of lack. It leads to relief, or let's say fake solutions, because there are no real solutions when you operate from a place of lack. From a place of lack, there are no real solutions. It's only relief that you pretend to be a real solution. So, now that I explained artificial conflict in length, now you understand why it's important for us believers to look beyond what goes on. Okay? So let's say now you go to someone's house. But this is an example that was used to me when I was little. When people were teaching me to be respectful and all of those things, they would tell me, Rashid, if you go to someone's house, let's say, and you go to a man's house, that man's your friend, and he has a wife. Okay, she greets you when you enter in, just visits. You don't stay there for long, you just visit your friend for a moment. And she suddenly begins to argue with her husband. What goes on? She doesn't want you to be there. She just wants to be left alone. So she, instead of saying that to you, which will lead to her husband questioning, why do you want him here? She just wants to have control. And she wants to plan and control everything that happens in the house. She's a control creep. She wants to control everything. And you coming there to visit your friends doesn't fill into her agenda. So now her agenda is disrupted and she blames you. She has a root conflict of wanting to control other people. That's her issue. And now that you're there visiting that friend, this root conflict is triggered. And now she's upset. But she can't be upset with you because you didn't do anything wrong to her. But now because she doesn't want to fix herself, she now blames you and she wants you out. But she cannot openly say you to get out of the blue because her husband thinks, hold on a moment, woman, what's wrong with you? If the children think, Mom, what are you doing? So now she causes conflict about something stupid just to create a negative climate. She's actually polluting the whole climate with her anger, just in hope that she would become so comfortable that she'll leave. So they would teach me, Rashid, if you're at a place and people suddenly start conflict, ask yourself where it is that they don't want you there or something that in that area. Well, It's factual. People do such stuff. So that example of the housewife who's a control creep, and she doesn't want to face that. Now she starts artificial conflict when things don't go her way. For some, when fate comes, that is how the world is in general. That's how the world is by default. Because to address the real reason why they're upset would mean they expose themselves. And they don't want that. So they need an artificial enemy to fight. And that's one thing I want you to understand, believers. Those folks that come against us as believers, that will persecute and retaliate against us, they have no reason to afflict us. If we were Baphomet oath takers, if we were Baphomet coddlers who worship Satan and inflicted harm on the human species, then they would have reason to be against us. Okay? Then I can understand if we were enabling sexual violence as well as sexual diseases on the masses to worship Satan, then they should turn on us. That would be rightfully so. But what happens now is that you have those Baphomet coddlers in places of authority like the government, in the business world, in church, and all of that, and they cause harm to the masses, but the masses just tolerate it, they get along with it. But then when we walk by faith, operating in life and abundance, now the masses turn on us. They have no reason to turn on us. They have none. They're upset that it now, because we are operating in faith, they need to face their own cowardice. And that's something they are absolutely terrified of facing. So now this fright they want to put on us by retaliating against us. So they create this artificial conflict in which they blame us for being arrogant, thinking we are know-it-all, thinking that we think we're everything. They come with this allegation and accusations that don't add up, that don't have no basis in nor facts in reality whatsoever. Why? Because by turning us into the monsters in their own minds, they turn us into monsters, and now they have a mission to accomplish. They make us into these monsters in their minds, and they agree with one another. We are those monsters, and now together they attack us, the monsters, and they experience this relief from stress and anxiety by dumping on us. Because the anxiety is that now their cowardice is exposed and they can't handle it. So now that anxiety, if they don't if they don't transfer it somewhere, that anxiety will literally ruin them, their communities, and their daily life. So to continue in their daily lives without having to face their own cowardice, they now transfer that fright onto us, believers. Okay? So Christ says that they persecuted him, they will persecute us. Christ said the world hated him, they will hate us. Why do they hate Christ? Because with Christ there is no such thing as fleeing and expecting things to work out. Christ demands compliance with justice and participation. That's what brokenness don't want. So when Christ was around and Christ was accomplishing stuff, they felt threatened because now Christ's accomplishments will expose their cowardice and their narcissism. So now the crowd became upset with Christ. The same will happen to you when you walk by faith. So understand that all those conflicts that people will drag you into are artificial. So on the long term, those conflicts don't even matter. If people accuse you of thinking you're something, yes, you are something, you are a believer. And if you're born in the United States, you are an American citizen. If you're from European descent, you are from European descent. If you're from Asian descent, you're from Asian descent. So you are something, okay? So why are people upset with you thinking you're something? Don't you see that this accusation or allegation doesn't add up? Don't you see how nonsensical it is? But here's the thing. The real issue is they want to control you so that you can't outdo them. Because the moment you outdo them, their cowardice as well as their narcissistic neglect is exposed. If there is harm happening in the community and you do something about it on your own, this is going to reflect on all those other people who just allow things to happen. And then that's going to make them look bad because they don't want to be looked bad. Because they don't want to look bad for them doing anything or for just wanting to flee. They want you to flee also. So they want to sabotage you so you cannot outdo them. And because for some reason they have difficulty sabotaging you, now they come in full force against you. You think you're something. I mean, ask them, what's the problem? I think I'm something. You're not allowed to do that. And this is what you need to understand. That artificial conflict is artificial. There is no real fact behind the conflict that can justify the conflict. If you were thinking that you were God, okay. Now I understand that people have something going, hold on a minute. This guy thinks he's God. Oh, later is going to act like God and harming himself and others, so we need to do something about it. Wait, then I can understand that people would have issues against it. But here's the thing. You have politicians think that they're like gods. Religious figures think they're like gods, and the masses get along with it. They complain about it, murmur about it, but they don't do something about it. But when you operate in a constructive attitude, that exposes their darkness, namely their narcissistic fleeing. So then that's why they have to come up with some type of accusation or allegation to make you into the monster. Too often as believers, when conflicts come up, we want to solve the conflict. We want to be Christ-like by solving the matter. One thing we don't understand is that a solution requires participation in the solution. So we cannot resolve anything completely without the participation of those involved. Now, we can bring solutions that will benefit those that comply, but those that won't comply will remain in a state of war. Okay? So that's what Christ told us, to shake us off our feet when people persist in negativity. When they persist in dumping and victimizing, we just shake us off our feet so their violence cannot harm us, nor haunt us. This is what we do. Why? Because not everyone wants solutions. So when the conflict arises, we as believers have the default thinking, which church taught us, that we need to be the bigger person to look for a solution. It is correct that we should be solution-oriented, that we should be constructive. That's correct. That's our obligation towards the Heavenly Father and towards our fellow human beings, that we have to be constructive and solution-oriented. That's true. But here's the thing. Are they solution-oriented? Are they constructive? No. So how can there be a long-term solution if they don't want to even involve themselves in thinking in terms of solutions? Not going to work. So when you have the attitude to be constructive and solution-oriented, and they are not, what happens is that they're setting you up to be the scapegoat. You want to do the right thing, that's good. They don't want to do the right thing, they just want to flee. So you do the right thing will bring a lot of weight on you, weight that you cannot handle, and of course you're going to crash and fail if there's so much unnatural weight on you, because all of them need to participate for things to work properly. But they don't want to do that, so when you want to do the right thing, all the pressure will come on you. And once all the pressure comes on you, you will fail, and then they will use your quote-unquote failure as an excuse for why things go wrong. Then they've built themselves out from facing themselves. That's why there are worldlings who are practical. They know they need to do the right thing, and they want to do the right thing, but they know that the moment they begin to do the right thing, they become the next victim. So that they will deflect and deny like everyone else till they're out of the situation. And behind the scenes, they will try and to do what they can about the situation. That's not hypocritical, that is realistic. If 10 people are throwing trash on the street just like that, and the whole street is like a dump site, and you decide to pick up your own trash, what's going to happen? All those other people will now throw their trash in your backyard, because you do the right thing anyway. So because you do the right thing by picking up your trash faithfully, they now throw all the trash in your backyard. Because if they would throw it on the streets, then you would say, hey, I cannot handle cleaning the whole street. So they're not going to throw it on the street anymore. Now they're going to throw it in your backyard. Now they get rid of the trash, and you're the one carrying the weight of all the trash. And if you don't manage to get rid of all the trash, it'll be on you because it was thrown in your backyard. Now, all those people that thrown their trash in your backyard are going to call the cops on you, saying, police officer, this individual keeps his garden dirty, and it affects the whole community. Even though they are the ones throwing their trash in your garden, they're going to do it, and when you can't handle getting rid of all the trash, they will even call the cops on you as if you're the one victimizing them. That's how we are in the world. They throw their trash in your garden, and you need to deal with it, and of course, eventually it becomes too much for you, and then they will accuse you of not being able to deal with the trash. Because now it's their trash is dumped on you, so now it's yours. They dumped it on you, so now it's yours. Now you need to deal with it. They don't want to hear anything about it anymore. That's why openly doing the right thing can be a trap. That's why Christ said, don't cast your pearls before swine. Okay? Openly doing the right thing is good. But if you're dealing with creeps who just want relief and will persist in it, you openly doing the right thing will make you the next victim. So there are even narcissists out there who understand this. Okay, I'm not supporting narcissists, but even narcissists understand if you do the right thing, you'll be the victim. That's how it often goes in this world. Everyone throws trash on the streets. If you do it just like everyone else does, and they become upset with you, they can point out, hey, you guys do the same thing, and then they are embarrassed. Okay, so have you ever encountered that everyone does something, and when you do it, they have a problem with you, but not everyone else does it? That's also deflection. But if the trash is everywhere, and you point out that you guys do the same thing, they're embarrassed. But if all the trash is in one garden, an individual doesn't manage to deal with trash, now you can use that as an excuse saying, hey, the rest of the neighborhood is clean, it's only there is trash. That's how it goes in the world. So as believers, we need to understand that we need to overrule and shut down evil. That's the only thing we can do when it comes to evil, overrule it and shutting it down, and replace it with glory. And we can only work out solutions with those who are humble enough to receive solutions. Those that are proud will only sabotage our efforts, and they will eventually seek to victimize us because they don't want to face themselves. That's what proud people do. Okay? So we should do the right thing, but there are times we should stop doing the right thing and doing what's best. And sometimes that implies shaking the dust off your feet and move on. So understand, believer, 99% of all the conflicts out there in the world are artificial. You can have a mother who keeps complaining about her teenage daughter, that she wants to go out with friends, that she wants to wear a bit more sexual clothes and all of that. What goes on? Her daughter is maturing into womanhood, which implies that she will be a sexually active being. That's natural, okay? The mother also went through it. So why is she upset with the daughter going through it? Well, she can say to her daughter, okay, you are a sexual being, you have urges, all women do, but be constructive. Some men, that's what take advantage of you. Just guide your daughter. Just be like how would I say, a role model for your daughter as a woman. Okay? But you have mothers out there who get pissed off at their daughter, who make arguments and even fight their daughters. And the daughters end up running away from home because things are become too psychologically heavy for them. Or the daughters end up smoking, whatever, to deal with the stress. And this thing, when she complains about her mother, the father will say, hey, be respectful to your mother. Your mother did a lot for you. She carried you in her belly. When she complains about her mother outside, people at school, as well as people in the church, ever tell her, no, you can't operate like that. And when she gets a bad reputation for so-called bad mouthing her mother, doors will close. She's not invited to parties anymore. Her friends will let her down. Teacher at school will dislike her. So she experiences violence at home, the mother fighting against her, and when she openly complains about it, which she should, people now turn on her. So she's been taught by people to shut up and tolerate the violence and at the same time make sure everyone's at ease. So she is expected to allow her mother to violate her, as well as to make sure nobody notices how she's violated. Okay? So you're being harmed, you have to allow yourself to be harmed, but the community doesn't want to take care of you after you're being harmed. Why does the community want you to be harmed? Because if you stand up against your abusive mother, then the community needs to answer you why they allowed this woman to abuse you to begin with. Then the community then they need to admit, yes, we're cowards. We don't care about your well-being, just want you to make us happy. They're not going to do that. So they have to blame you for what's happening to you so that they don't have to take responsibility for not dealing with that stupid woman over there. And what about your father? Doesn't he realize the type of woman he's been sleeping with for decades? He does, but he's a simp. He's a lowlife with no self-esteem, and that's why that woman can control him. So your father is in on it also. So in this case, The daughter is just maturing as a sexual being, which is natural, and the mother is now upset. Why? Because she doesn't have the advantage her daughter has. She neglected her own looks as well as her own mindset, and she spent decades of her life with this other man that she married or that she's involved with, and now she regrets it, but she doesn't want to take responsibility. She doesn't want to take ownership for her own part. And now a convenient target is her daughter. And there are a lot of women doing this, targeting their daughters because they don't want to face themselves.
Jordan is here. Jordan is here.
So understand this, that a lot of conflicts out there are just artificial. The moment you believe the artificial conflict is real, you think it's legitimate and you think, I need to solve this. But the moment you realize it's artificial, you realize, okay, this is artificial. So it doesn't matter what I bring to the table, I will always end up losing. Because in artificial conflict, you will always lose. Especially if you are the target of that artificial conflict. In an artificial conflict, everyone loses. Because nobody deals with what's really going on. Okay? So, in an artificial conflict, what you do is you get out as soon as possible.
Nothing with me at all.
Listen, if people are upset with you because you didn't put the trash outside, or you're you drive a bit dangerous, if there's any legitimate reason for them to be upset, then they should be upset with that legitimate reason. They should address it to you, and they should expect you to work with them on a solution. People have a right to expect things from you, especially when it relates to safety and their well-being, and they should expect you to comply with them. So people can expect things from you. So this narcissistic, satanic attitude, I just want to be left alone, it's my life, I don't owe anyone anything, is nonsense. You do owe people something. You do owe the community something, okay? But at the same time, the community owes you too. And that's the thing in the world. The community wants you, remind you what you owe them, but they don't want you to remind them that they owe you. That's the thing with the world. So in order to hide this collective narcissism that they want everything from you, but they want obligation towards you, now they need to come with conflicts to put you in. So that is why this 9-to-5 construct was developed by the British Empire. Why? Because if you have some imperialists from Britain going around the earth, plundering the British colonies, it will be on them when things backfire. But if and then the British public can say, hold on a minute, you guys chose to build ships and go around and robbing people, right? It's not on us. And that would be legitimate. But if the British public now has to go to work every day in those imperial corporations, now because they are now enabling those imperial corporations in order to pay rent, they need to pay rent in order to go. They also need money to pay for the daily expenses. And where they get the money? From employers. And employers get it from banks. So in the British Empire, they arranged it like this. The public has daily needs for which it needs to pay. So we offer the money through corporations who are involved in imperial projects, which involve exploitation for other ethnicities. So by involving the British public in this, we can use their participation to blackmail them when they call us out. And that's why the 9-to-5 exists. Okay? So the 9-to-5 exists to drain you, to let you think that you're doing something good, even though you're just being drained. And by you being drained, unknowingly, you're participating with the violence of society. So when you call out the violence of society, first thing first, you can be fired. So then you may end up homeless because you can't pay rent or pay your mortgage. So you tend to remain quiet. And when you do remain quiet, people can say you're a hypocrite because you complain about stuff, but what are you doing about it? So the 9-to-5 is a trap to trick us into agreeing with the violence that goes on. So this whole conflict about welfare while people who are not employed, yet they get benefits from the government, is an artificial conflict. Because that money you get paid when you go to work every day or for 9 to 5, that money is printed, is created by the government. Okay? So they print the money, and the same government that prints the money also hands out the money for free to people who are on welfare. So if you get upset that you go to work every day, yet you're left with little to no money, and people on welfare often have hundreds of dollars or hundreds of euros available to them, then you should talk to your boss about it, and then you should talk to the government why it is that the government doesn't arrange the distribution of money in such a way that everyone benefits. You should be upset with the government, asking, why are you not printing enough money to circulate in such a way that everyone benefits? Why is it that most of us have to be drained from 9 to 5, and a few people who do want to have work can't have work, so they need welfare? So you create a situation in which most of us are being drained from 9 to 5, and a part of the population that can't participate, they have no choice but to rely on you to get free cash. Why do you create such a situation, government? If people will do that, don't be courageous. I would support that. But what do? When they hear that some people are not employed, they get upset thinking, I need to wake up every morning to go to work. And these people over there are so lazy, they don't want to work, and they get money. Their fridge is filled with food, and look at my fridge over here. They have time to play PS5, they have time to play their Xbox, all of that, and look at me, I have to work all day long. Okay, why don't you get upset with the government who prints the money and distributes it? Why getting upset with the people over there? Because a lot of people in welfare want to work, but they can't. Some don't want to work, and hey, who in the right mind wants to be drained from 9 to 5 for 40 years long? Who in the right mind does this? It's all about control. Here's the thing. The people who are drained from 9 to 5, most of them don't want to face the situation and find solutions. They don't. They just want to get along with the 9 to 5 so that they can feel proud. Hey, I participate, I pay taxes. Whereas the taxes you pay comes from money printed by the government. So the government prints money, hands out to you, and a portion of the money you get, you give back to the government, who prints it. So the government doesn't need money because they're the ones printing it to begin with. So why would you have to pay taxes if they're the ones printing the money? If they need more money, they can just print more money and use it. Why do you need to give back some of the money they've given to you after you've worked? Don't people realize this doesn't add up? Oh, they don't want to face all of that. They pay taxes, so they feel entitled to look down on people who don't pay taxes, so they cannot supply. That's what it's about. Most people remain stuck in 9 to 5 due to their narcissism. They want to feel better than people who don't pay taxes. So when you have people who don't work for 9 to 5, yet they get pissed off, thinking, hey, I work, I pay taxes, so I'm superior to you. Okay, you're so-called superior, but you're tired almost every day. You have less time with your family or with your husband or wife. You have less time to do what God calls you to do. You have almost no strength left to process things from your youth and everything. So you're the one being drained, yet you feel superior to me, who at least is realistic, admitting, okay, I need to survive. And you even go so far that you want to empower political parties to take away my welfare so that I will die and become homeless just because you want to feel superior. That's how sick a lot of folks are. Instead of facing the oppression they're in, they want to redirect the tension to others to victimize them so they can feel superior, so they can feel relief. Do you understand now why Christ told us not to be equally yoked with unbelievers? Those people don't want solutions. They want victims. Let me repeat this. They don't want solutions. They want victims. And if you openly come out and do the right thing, they'll turn you into the victim. So when you walk by faith, make sure you do what's best. Now, you should do the right thing, but if the Holy Spirit tells you don't, you don't. Okay? So, do you understand what I've explained here? Let me know in the live chat. William, thank you for being here. Praise the Lord. Let me give an example. Okay? There are people saying they don't believe in New Year's resolution. New Year, new me. They call it all bullshit, this whole thing of New Year's resolutions. Okay, what's the idea behind the New Year's resolution? It's a resolution. You want things to be better coming year. That's honorable. The alternative is you go through year after year, doing the same, having the same results, never improving, never growing, never expanding. So the alternative is to be static. So when people make New Year's resolutions, at least they want things to be better. I'm not saying that they're able to make things better by their own effort, but at least they show they want it. What's bullshit about that? I figured out the following. People, for example, who look down on New Year's resolutions and act this out with saying this bullshit, all of that, what are they doing? Are they walking by faith? Are they shutting down violence around them? Are they healing and recovering? Are they inspiring others for the better? Most of the time they don't. Most of the time they're complaining about how fake the world is. They would say, well, people make New Year's resolutions, yet every year evil continues. Okay, if 99% of the people making New Year's resolutions don't mean it, and 1% does, then at least there's 1% that's genuine. Focus on the 1% that's genuine instead of complaining about the 99% that's fake. So they think they value the fakeness more than those that are genuine. And those that are genuine really want things to be better. So because most people are just fake, they think I'm real. So I'm not going to make New Year's resolutions, I'm real. What's so real about you if you look down on people, but at least make a declaration that they want things to be better? Look, if they fail in making things better, does that mean that they are a hypocrite? No, it just means that they failed or they didn't succeed. But at least it's honorable that they want things to be better. Look, companies and corporations do this. Whether it's Shell, HP, or British Petrol, or Microsoft, or Pfizer, or whatever corporation or company it is, every year they reflect back on the year to see what they can do better next year. Companies, corporations do it. Even amongst criminals, this happens. So, why is it that when individuals out there say that they want things to be better, whether it's in the New Year's resolution, whatever, people say it's nonsense? I'm telling you why they say it's nonsense. Because the moment you do better, they need to change how they think about you. And if they talk low of you and you do better, now when it comes out, they were thinking low of you, that's going to reveal their narcissism. And they're terrified of that. So they want you to remain the same, or they want you to become worse so that they can be relieved. Because the moment you do better, you doing better is challenging them, and then they're exposed. So, because they have issues they don't want to face about themselves, they have issues that they make excuses for, they now don't want you to do better. Okay? If someone would say, I don't believe in New Year's resolutions, but I believe in everyday improvement, okay, that would be something good. Because they would say, why wait for a whole year to make a resolution, do it every day? If someone would say that, I applaud that. But if they say, oh, it's just bullshit and all of that, when you look at such people, they are stagnant. They're stuck in cycles over and over again, no solutions. So that's why when other people agree that they want solutions and say it's bullshit. Why? Because if they agree and celebrate people want the New Year's resolutions and those other people end up becoming better and they don't, that's going to expose them. But if they say it's bullshit and begin to sabotage those people and hope they would fail, that they can at least have some leverage and not having to face themselves. So a lot of times people tell on themselves, we just don't pay attention. I don't care if someone's a believer or an unbeliever. When it comes to New Year's resolutions, why is it that the government, why is that corporations, businesses, and even criminals make New Year's resolutions? They reflect on the year thinking, okay, what can we do better next year? When the company does it, all is bullshit. Do they tell their boss at work it's bullshit, the company is reflecting on the last year or the last season? Do they tell the government it's bullshit, you guys are reflecting and all of that? And here's the thing. They say it's bullshit, New Year's resolutions, but what are they pledging to? To be drained every day? What solutions are they bringing? They don't bring any. They just want to sabotage you so that they can be at ease. And if you don't allow that to happen, they seek to exterminate you. So don't do the right thing, do what's best. You can do the right thing if it leads to the best thing. Do what's best. Okay? Well, let's see if I missed any questions over here. No, I didn't. So that's it for now. Thank you all for being here. I don't want to make this live stream too long. You can watch it back, make notes, or whatever. And I'll see you in the next live stream. Be at peace.